welcome to episode 5, Aussie Mac Zone, another Tuesday night, 16th of July, 2013, and we are recorded live in front of a live virtual audience. Welcome to the lounge. You can join the lounge if you like every Tuesday night live at aussietechheads.com.au/live. But tonight it's the Aussie Mac Zone, and yes, it's brought to you as always by aussietechheads.com.au/hosting. If you're after some great little plans, some little hosting plans, you might have a little blog, or you might have something else you want to put up on the internet, well, there's the way to go. Just go and have a look at some of the affordable, professional, all managed plans from $5.95 per month, and even up the business end, up the top end there, you're not going to really be paying more than $10. So get them while they last. All right, so that's the hosting, and also the Aussie Mac Zone is brought to you by IT Help for You. And we'll talk about them later on because they've got a prize they give away each week and make it all good and dandy. All right, don't forget to like us on our Facebook, facebook.com/Aussie Tech Heads and youtube.com/Aussie Tech Heads. You can catch the latest show every single week. And also the video is on iTunes as well. So there's no excuse. You can get us everywhere. All right. Where are we going to go to now? We're going to welcome all our hosts, and geez, we've got a full panel tonight. I might just go around and we can just all jump in and say good day. We've got Jason, Warlock, and Garth. Hi, boys. How you doing?
Hey, not so bad. How's yourself?
Hey, guys.
Good. Now, Garth, we'll start with you because there's no picture for Garth tonight, for those on the video. So, what's going on, Garth? Bit of a poor bandwidth.
I'm severely bandwidth impaired.
Geez, that's no good.
I knew I was vision impaired, but no, I hadn't realised how bandwidth impaired I was.
Don't worry, Garth. The NBN will be here soon to rescue you.
Oh,
yeah,
I don't
in
know.
about 5 years or so, where I am, unfortunately. So I can't see you, and now you can't see me.
No. So, well, anyway, so that was Garthy boy. Now, Jason, how you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
That's good.
And my movie of the week is Man of Steel, which I saw yesterday, and can recommend that one. Bit of a reboot of the Superman, but quite a long one at 140 minutes. But yeah, it was a good watch.
Oh, right. Yeah, 140 minutes. That is a while. I'm a bit of a Superman fan, so I want to go down and have a look at that one. So how does it rate to say, I don't know, the previous new one, and then maybe the old ones from the 80s?
The Christopher Reeve ones.
Well, yeah.
It's probably a bit of a darker Superman, I guess. But look, a good storyline, but maybe a bit of padding there that didn't need to be done to bring it out to the 140 minutes.
Right.
I think sometimes people deal with they have to make their movie longer rather than just concentrate on a good story.
Yeah, and it started again. Is that right? Like it started.
Look, it basically retold the story again, I guess, from the start. So,
cool.
Look, a bit of a reboot, I guess. A la the new Batman, the new series that came out. It sort of started at the start again.
Yeah.
My 11-year-old said he wasn't too sure about seeing the new Superman because now he wears jocks on the inside.
Right. And Warlock, how you doing? Have you seen the new Superman?
At least he's got his priorities right. No, I haven't been to any movies in ages, but a lot of people seem to be very happy about the Monsters vs. Robots one.
What's that?
Pacific Rim?
I haven't heard of it.
Yeah, I want to see that one. It sounds good.
Everyone's been raving about it. They're saying it's the best story, and Monsters vs. Robots, you just got to see it.
Right.
Something about monsters been living inside the core of the earth, and they come out through the ocean and start attacking the people. So we build giant robots that are like skyscraper high and go after the monsters and have big punch ups.
They're not reptilians, are they? Any chance?
Bit of everything.
Right. All right. So that is excellent. So I'm glad we got the movie segment out of the way. So look, let's just jump in and do some news. Just do a quick wrap up of what we thought was important this week. We'll start off with the watch again. What's doing with the watch? What else is looks like it's a launch date? Have we got a launch date, Jace?
Look, I think what Mac Show would be complete at the moment without iWatch rumours. So, as you said, we're into those again, and there's been a report from the Financial Times in the States that Apple's aggressively hiring new employees to help its smartwatch effort. They're talking about a launch for late 2014, where all the rumours so far have been later this year. So, look,
Yeah.
who knows? I guess that's a good thing about rumours, isn't it? That
Well,
no one can
that's
be
right.
wrong.
No, it fills the white space in the columns, doesn't it? That's, you've got nothing else to write. Why not start and write up a rumor? It's all good.
Yeah, well, everybody's given a go now. Google's doing a watch, Samsung's doing a watch, Apple's doing a watch, Microsoft's doing a watch, and they had their Spot watch before, which failed. But I don't know.
Warlock, did you hear the rumour that Seiko were doing a watch as well?
Oh, no.
Where's the KTO and Timex? I'm waiting for those.
Yeah,
What
apparently
about the Aussie Mac Zone watch?
I got a Citizen
could.
watch. Maybe they could do one as well.
Well, we could do an Aussie Mac Zone watch. We'll have to see how we go. We could
You're like,
we can get a- we can get
you
a
have a
Kickstarter."
watch. You have a watch, and you have a watch.
get onto Alibaba. Let's see if we can get one.
The
Yes.
only problem I have is that if it's going to be Apple only, and there's going to be a lot of people that will miss out, I'd prefer one of the ones that are platform agnostic. I don't know. I guess probably the Google one probably won't be, and the Microsoft one will be for their device, and Apple will have one for theirs, and Google will have one for theirs. Pebble is going to be somewhere in the middle. They can do a couple of different ones. And I just noticed today that there's a company in Australia that seems to be distributing the Pebble smartwatches, and they're in stock now, which is interesting. I think they're about $199 that you can buy it here, but I consider it for a while, but I'm starting to think the price and the functionality is the price out of the range of functionality is not there for me. So I'd like to see what somebody else does.
Yeah, look, I would agree with that. I got that when it first came out, and look, the idea is good, but I guess I'd call it a beta, really. As you say, it's fairly limited. I guess maybe the apps haven't been flowing. And for $200, look, it's still quite pricey for something that's still in its infancy, I would say.
Yeah, I was listening to Leo's podcast, and they were saying that there's a problem with iOS 6. Has got a bug in it that they can't work around for the Pebble to get the kind of notifications they want. But they also mentioned something else interesting that I thought that Apple has patented a way of putting the batteries into the armband of the watch. So with the Pebble watch, a lot of people buy it, but it's got a very cheapy, plasticky, leathery type armband, which is not that great. So everyone's buying their own, which is just a standard size watch band that you can snap on there. But with the Apple one, if the batteries are built into the watch band, you'll be stuck with their one.
Well, that's an extra
Flexible
$40.
battery.
Yeah, we spoke about that last week. Yeah, the flexible battery that Apple have painted. So that does look quite interesting.
It just means that you're just going to have to buy their bands as well. So, if it breaks, well, you've got to go buy another band. They love enclosing batteries, don't they? They love it.
Yeah.
They love it.
It seems to be the way, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, look, I think we've spoken about the watch for a couple of weeks. Is there anything more to the rumors? I think the one that got me was the Microsoft, as Warlock just mentioned there before, that they had a watch out before. You were saying, but
they had a Spot watch which would use the cell towers and give you a bit of weather info and a little bit of sports info. It didn't do fantastically, but a few people were using them for a while.
It probably just goes.
They had that service running for 10 years or something, didn't they?
Yeah,
it probably just goes. Yeah, it goes to show, because they had a tablet out 20 years ago as well. And if they just had to spend a bit more money, maybe on just developing these things like Apple did, they could have been the forefront of everything.
It's not that great on marketing as Apple is.
No, and now
Apple can bring out something that everybody else has done slightly different and go, look, this is why it's better. And often it will be. I mean, the UI and the user experience is usually much better than what the other people have done, just because they research it a lot more and they don't just bring out anything half cut or whatever. But usually it's something that somebody's already done, but they've improved on it, which is not a bad thing, and makes them a lot of money and everyone's happy.
They sit back and learn from the mistakes.
Well, this could be right. But another rumour, Garth, have you heard about these chips? Apple is reportedly going to buy a chip-making factory, as in computer chips. Not salt and vinegars.
They've been, well, I'm all for the chicken chips at the moment, but that aside.
I like them ones.
They've had a lot of people on chip design for quite some time, haven't they? Even, I think, about 2 years ago, they were talking about having 1,000 people in Cupertino, they're working on chip design. So they've had fabrication plants off, building their designs for quite some time. Sort of variations on the basic ARM, is it?
I don't know.
It's based off the ARM,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh,
it's
yes,
sort of
the
a
ARM,
risk,
yes.
risk environment, reduced
The ARM
instruction set,
processor. Yep.
type chip. So they've been doing that for a while. So now they're looking at getting their own actual fabrication plant as well.
Now,
So they'd have to rely on Samsung and all the other guys to make them for them.
yeah, so
I guess it's taking over the whole vertical, isn't it? I mean, if you're doing your chip design, so you put your R&D into it, and that's the secret sauce, so to speak. I guess if you own the whole vertical, it's a way of stopping your competitors getting any access, and maybe trying to stop the leaks. Maybe Tim is still a little bit paranoid. There's a bit of Steve in him yet to keep
well, he was mentored by him,
everyone
wasn't he?
away from it.
Yeah, so these are, look, we are talking about the mobile chips, not. I don't think they're getting rid of Intel chips in the desktops. That's just all
Not
to
at
do.
this stage, no. They'd like to in
Not
the future
yet.
stop their Hackintoshes and stuff. It's interesting how far Acorn have come with their ARM architecture. Everybody's all over that all the time now.
Yeah,
I think they came from little 8-bit Acorn computers and then started doing RISC, and now they're all over the place.
Well, that's what all these are based off for. Like, so I mean, Apple are paying royalties to ARM for that technology. So
and
they're
Qualcomm
doing
as well.
very nicely. Yeah,
Texas Instruments
for
and
the
Qualcomm.
comms. Yeah.
So the good thing with these stories is, look, so Apple reportedly does this and does that, because on the other side of the ocean, on the other hand, Apple reportedly signs deals with Samsung for A9 chips. So no one knows what's going on. It's just all reports and rumours.
Yeah, I mean, in the same week that Apple are building a chip fabrication facility to build their own, it's been reported that they've signed a deal with Samsung for the new A9 chips starting in 2015. And I guess the other interesting aspect of that one is, of course, all of the fallout and court cases between Apple and Samsung, and I guess changes that Apple did make in moving their displays over to LG, etc. I guess that's an interesting bedfellows again if they're getting together for the chip manufacturing.
Yeah,
And
look,
we
I
know
think the thing is with
Apple's
Apple is that they
always-
don't
sorry, Garth.
go. You go.
Apple's always thinking ahead, so they could be doing some beta testing with their current factory, which is this rumor is about, but they still have contract with Samsung to support them until they can get up on their feet, get their own ones going. Of course, they're going to be doing their own version. If they had ARM, they'd most likely do their own version with ARM extensions or something for Apple-specific stuff. So they'll keep going with Samsung for the next few phones and other devices until they're up and going at 100%, and then they'll be able to cut them off. They may have existing contracts as well.
Yeah, well, one thing will be the existing contracts, but I'd say it's also a case of, Tim Cook, being the supply man that he is, doesn't want to have all his eggs in one basket. So even if they do get their own fab plant off the ground and, all that sweet, at the moment they're sourcing displays from multiple vendors for the same products. You know what I mean?
Is it
like not all the displays are coming from one vendor? So if you've got multiple vendors supplying the same thing, you can play them off each other. If something happens to one, you've got the other one to fall back on to a degree. So I'm wondering, even if they do have their own fabrication plant, if they won't still keep relationships with the other manufacturers going.
I think they've got to keep relationships going. I think moving forward, I don't think you could survive. Like, you can't spread your wings too wide, if you know what I mean. Because, like, well, are they into phones? Are they into music? Are they into watches, or iPads, or what? And to go back into, if they go full on into chips, like these Samsung and all these other makers, they've already spent the billions of dollars on the R&D. And so, what is Apple where are they picking up from? Are they picking up from the latest one, and then going to spend another billion to catch up with, so they're fully versed in how to make chips and all this sort of stuff? I don't know if that's a good idea. I think they'd be.
Well,
They
you're
already
The bit
own
that
their
they're
own,
not-
semiconductor plants and fabrication places, so they'd just be expanding on that.
So
They're doing their own designs at the moment, as far as I understand it. They're riffs on an existing design, but it is their own designs now. So it's that whole manufacturing thing, though, isn't it?
yeah.
It's the physical
Which will be the
manufacturing
different thing.
and the
Yeah,
tooling, etc. for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as Glenn says, there's economies of scale around that. So, I imagine putting together a chip manufacturing plant isn't cheap. So you want to be churning out a lot to get your payback. And obviously Tim is the supply chain king. So I'm sure he would have done his sum. So there must be something in it.
But
yeah, exactly.
But is it just because they just want to lock things up? So they just want their own little chip. Is it because they've got so much money they can do this? Is it an ego
There was another
thing?
thing that Tim Cook mentioned at the recent meeting that they had up on stage is that they want to double down on security, which means that they need less companies and less people knowing what stuff they're making and creating prototypes for them. With for example, the new supposedly cheap iPhones that are coming out, we've got photos of what the backs of all of those are going to look like off the assembly line. And that's the kind of thing that Apple said in the last thing with Tim Cook, that they don't want that kind of thing happening. They need to get it even more secret than it is at the moment. And if you're relying on too many other companies for too many things, then it's going to be too easy for these things to leak out.
But although it can be as secret as you like, but as soon as it's released, and then they start doing these teardowns and stuff. Does that defeat the purpose once it's released? Like once it's released, who cares if it?
They want to keep the hype up and be. I expect Apple probably wants to get more in control where they used to be of who knows what about what, and they can obviously, like other companies, they'll leak out their own bits of information here and there so that people still keep the hype up that Apple has got something new coming, something around the corner, and a lot of speculation and rumor, because that's what keeps the fueling the desire for people to want new Apple stuff. But they also want to have full control what exactly gets released and how much of it.
Yeah. So do you think that there's a few leaks from Samsung or something? Is this why they're moving away, do you reckon, as well? Like, do you think there are leaks from Samsung? This is where they're trying to plug the holes. I don't know. I just think it's a big move, isn't it? Like these guys, like Intel, fancy trying to say, "Oh, I'm just going to make my own CPUs." Like fancy doing that. That's a big move.
There are other things such as examples from other companies which have been producing computer components and such for another company. That's all they did was make it for another company, and then they're like, well, why don't we just release our own line? And they start making their own motherboards, they make their own laptops from what they've learned from other people. They were mentioning recently that, I think it was on Leah's podcast as well, that Foxconn have been showing off a beta of a iWatch type device or a smart watch. And is that a leak about the Apple one, or have they gone, well, we've been making stuff for HP, we've been making stuff for Apple, we've been making stuff for Dell. Why don't we just start making some of our own stuff and release it in the shops and cut out those? We've got all the research done. We did that for them, and they've done a lot of research for us, which we've learned from. Now we can start making our own stuff.
Didn't Asus come from that sort of a situation? They were,
yeah. They used to just make motherboards for other companies who contracted them. And they're like, hey, well, we could just do this ourselves. And now they've got a spin-off, AS Rock, as well. It apparently came from Asus as well. So everyone learns from everyone else and spins off.
All right. Now, Jason, Square... Now, here's some good names for me. Square Enix reverses course on Deus Ex anti-jailbreak code. Does that sound like Japanese or what? What's happening there?
So this one was around users who purchased the game were unable to fire their weapons.
Sweet.
That's not a euphemism on jailbroken devices because of an anti-piracy measure. So users were not able to fire any guns, which, funnily enough, is quite important in that game. So being a first-person shooter. So
did I pronounce that right? So everyone knows that we're on the same page. Deus Ex. Is that right?
And I would say, yep, sounds right to me.
Right.
So Square Enix, who are the producers of that game, have apologised for not properly communicating that the game would not work on jailbroken devices, and it would rectify the issue in a future software update. So I imagine the issue there is that, if you're going to pirate Apple games, you need to jailbreak your device. So, it's obviously around a anti-pirate measure, and I think they would probably be surprised that people who had jailbroken iPhones had purchased the game. Maybe they hadn't purchased the game; they were just complaining.
Yeah, probably.
But,
It reminds
that's
me of
basically
a,
the sense around.
Reminds me of a story I'd read about a developer who'd released a game, and he put in a check to see if anybody had pirated the game. And when they did, they wouldn't be able to do a certain function in the game that was required for the game. And but the people who'd actually paid for it could. So he managed to watch all the tech forums and see all these people complaining, "What's going on? I can't do this in the game. I can't get past this particular part in it." And he waited till they posted like 50 or 100 of these things, and at the bottom he's like, "It's because you pirated my game. I put this code in there, and you can't go any further in there. If you want to be able to complete the game, please purchase it from me. Thank you."
How many sleepless nights would some people have had because of that? They'd be pulling their hair out, wouldn't they? Why?
Serves them right, exactly. I have, jailbreak your head off.
Yeah.
Go for your life. I don't care. But
Well, jailbreaking
developers out there creating stuff, putting hard work into it, pay them.
Yeah.
An even more amusing one was where another guy who had 3D characters you'd run around in the game. If it detected that you'd copied the game instead of paying for it, your character wore an eye patch, and it had a little skull and crossbones on the eye patch. So that when you're running around, if you took a video of it or on YouTube or something, you'd know that the game had been pirated by that person because they had this.
That one might have the sound of that one actually might have backfired, and people be wanting to have that.
It's like putting.
I got an eye patch. This is awesome.
It's like putting that liquid into public pools or into your pool. So when someone pees, there's a big stain that follows them around.
Yeah.
Oh no.
All right. Okay, so let's move on with that one. Apple is investigating Indonesian tin production for illegal mining. Who wants to have a go with that one? Jace.
Well, that one is, I guess Apple have had a fair bit of focus around their supplier responsibility. So they've updated their page on their website around concerns of illegal mining of tin in Indonesia. And the company, as part of its supplier responsibility, I guess, is funding a new task group with the Electronic Industry Citizens Coalition.
Ooh.
I haven't heard of that one before.
No.
And that's to determine if its suppliers are getting tin from illegal mining operations.
Yeah, okay.
And look, I guess that is a concern these days. I guess with a lot of precious metals and resources that are used in the manufacture of computing devices and equipment, whether it's being mined responsibly, and a lot of the techniques that can be used for mining can be very bad for the environment, and unfortunately sometimes
to me that
especially
to me that's a sounds a bit crazy, that story, because to mine something on a scale that is required to produce all this tin for say Apple, and Apple investigated Indonesian tin production. So is the mining happening in Indonesia? And if it's illegal, why doesn't the government just go and stop it? Like, obviously mining is a big operation. It's not just like someone out there with a little pan who's sifting through the bottom of the creek, looking for tin. It's a big operation. Why? That's just, what makes it illegal? Obviously, it's being mined with the government's blessing. I don't understand what makes it.
I don't know that that's right, Glenn. This stuff can happen. I mean, it was only a couple completely separate subject. There's only a couple of years ago that 40% of the world's cocoa was produced by slaves, and we're talking the last decade.
I thought you were going to say Coke.
They have the same problem with
chocolate,
with getting diamonds as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But
this stuff happens.
If it's mined illegally, what does that mean? It's obviously mined illegally. If something's getting mined,
they go into areas where they don't have permission and start mining there, whether the government wants them to or not, and the government can try and stop them, but then they're just going to mine somewhere else.
Yeah, but they're not. They can't just stick up a mine overnight. Oh, I don't know. I have to.
Maybe they're not paying the carbon tax. That's what the problem
Might
is.
be.
Well,
Might be.
now they can do the emission
I don't know
trading
that
thing, so it's all right.
the governments in some of these countries don't have the power to, don't actually have the ability to stop these companies doing this stuff.
All right. Well, look, that's something I might have to read up on more and satisfy my curiosity. Apple negotiating with cable companies and networks to allow viewers to pay to skip commercials. This is the go. Technology journalist Jessica Lesson, formerly of the Wall Street Journal, reports that Apple has been negotiating with cable companies and TV networks to allow customers to skip commercials, and Apple would compensate programmers for the lost revenue. Well, how do you like that? I think that is probably a fair call. People are skipping them anyway. What do you guys reckon?
I think the
on how
more
much they're going to charge me to skip a commercial, I guess.
Yeah.
I might just go, yeah, I'll just going to go to the loo, forget it.
Yeah, but,
I don't know. I love the idea to myself.
Yeah.
to me, the more interesting thing here is this. This is really what we spoke about a few weeks ago. This looks to be Apple getting on board the content creators, and that's the more interesting thing to me. That if you can have your Apple TV or Apple device and a la carte, select what shows you want when you want them, they're delivered in that timely manner.
Well,
Like iTunes 10 years ago, that's going to put Apple in a really powerful position. And maybe that's the proposition they've got at the moment. They've got healthy revenues, big pockets full of cash. Maybe they can go and get access to the content and they can pay more for it than what the producers were going to get through maybe network TV and, through the ad revenue that generates to pay for the programs. And it might be that, your Game of Thrones or whatever is going to be only through Apple devices. Because I think Netflix in the States have started producing their own content now. So it's along those lines, I guess.
I know.
And some of that's done really well, apparently, too.
They've done House of Cards.
I think that they've got to probably really look at what they're trying to do here, because I think, okay, they make Game of Thrones, as for argument's sake, talk about that, make that, say, iOS or Apple only, available to Apple only, and then so Apple's paid to skip all these. Also, they've got all these commercials in them, but Apple wants to pay to get rid of them. So I think that is a good move, because if you start producing shows with commercials in them, it's going to be the same as not making it available to watch in certain areas. Like, no one's going to start. People are still going to say pirate just to get rid of the commercials. That's the next thing. You just pirate the show because you don't want to sit through 10 minutes of commercials every half-hour show. So
you'd have to see how much Apple is going to charge you through your Apple TV to pay to skip the commercials. I guess you would have to do it at the start of the show. Say you can watch this show live as it streams and have the commercials, or you can click this button here now to pay $4 and you can watch a commercial-free episode.
But we all know, does that really work? We all, those that got Foxtel, how many ads are on that thing? It's just like a commercial TV. It's just.
Oh, there's that one that we pay 10 times what they pay for Netflix, and originally it was supposed to be ad-free because we were paying for it. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that old chestnut. Well, yeah.
I don't have that one.
No. So anyway, Apple asks retail employees for iPhone sales advice. There you go. Apple has sent out a memo, as they probably do all the time, to its international Apple retail employees asking for innovative ideas on how to improve the iPhone. Well, I don't think they need to ask their employees. They just read a few blogs, wouldn't they? They'd soon find out. Go and ask Samsung. The retail store environment.
Their employees are going to be at the forefront of people bringing their phone and saying, why doesn't it do this? And they're like, well, that's a good idea. Why doesn't it do that? Let's write that down and I'll send it in through to timcook@apple.com and see what he has to say about it.
Employees are asked to submit an idea which will lead to an 8-week experience where selected candidates will interact with members from various Apple departments at the company's Cupertino headquarters, including marketing, customer analytics, merchandising, mobile commerce, and more, in order to solve problems related to the way Apple sells and supports its phones. Well, I've got an
One
idea
of the
already.
problems that Tim Cook was complaining about is that people don't buy phones from Apple. They buy their phones from the carrier, and they want to bring that more into Apple and get people to buy them from the Apple store and not from the carrier. I mean, I only discovered last year, it was a surprise to me, and you guys probably know about it, that I, instead of going to Telstra and buying my iPhone 5, I could have gone into the Apple store and signed up there on a Telstra contract. I had no idea that even existed.
Yeah,
And
okay.
I'm usually
Yeah.
keeping my finger right on the pulse of what's happening. But as far as I knew, if I wanted a Telstra iPhone, I go to Telstra, and if I wanted to buy one outright, I might as well go to Apple. But they said that they want less sold through carriers and more sold through themselves. So maybe that's going to happen more in the future.
Well,
That was
It's
part of
more-
that big powwow, wasn't it, in the last month when all Apple Store managers worldwide went to
Secret meeting.
secret or not so secret meeting. Had a
Secret.
had a 3-hour chat with Tim about I guess plans for the Apple stores, and reported out of that the iPhone thing was big, and that only 20% of iPhones are sold through Apple stores, and it was a case of we're doing well on the Macs and the iPads, etc. Want to really focus on iPhones, and I imagine from a bottom line perspective, the advantage is there. If they're selling it, they are making more money on each device.
well, yeah. They
The
would
other
rather
thing
than-
is that 20% sold and 50% coming back to the Apple Store when it's repairs or with issues. So if there's an issue, they have to deal with it afterwards. But they're not doing the selling. So
They're making less money up front
disparity
and
they
then
wanna
still copying the tech support at the back end.
Yeah. But hey, swings and roundabouts, because it's that knowledge that people have of the quality of that tech support and the reliant, that they can just walk into an Apple store with an issue and get it dealt with. That means that, people are buying those devices. That's why they're doing it.
They might even end up with a refurbished one straight away, or if it's very new, they might just get a new one off the shelf and send it straight to you. Whereas I've had experience where I've gone through carriers and I had a phone that just started doing reboots all the time because there was something wrong with the software, and they're like, okay, well, we got to send it away for 2 weeks. In the meantime, twiddle your thumbs and you don't have a phone, and then you get it back and it might work again. But with Apple, you know that most of the time it's going to get solved there on the spot in the shop, whether you buy a refurbished one, buy a brand new one, or they give you one because they want the happy customer.
That's right. That's right.
It's the
And
best way to do it.
I went down that. I had an experience like that, and I bought a brand. I guess it was brand new because the iPhone 5 was only out 2 months. I dropped mine and had to get another one. And good experience all around. All right, now this week's, as always, our viewer or listener question is brought to you by ithelpforyou.com.au. If you down there in Penrith Way, just go in there. You got a problem with your Apple device, go and ask them on some advice on how to fix it, or they'll fix it for you and do all the good stuff to it and get you back up and running just like the Apple Store. You got questions about networking, you got questions about anything Apple, go and see ithelpforyou.com.au. And look, they are giving us a $20 iTunes gift voucher every week. Now, all you got to do to get one, there's one a week that will be going off. All you got to do is leave us a review on Aussie Mac Zone on the iTunes. Okay, I'm sure you can do it. I'm sure someone out there can leave a review on Aussie Mac Zone to get a $20 iTunes gift voucher. So get involved. Go and do that. Either the audio podcast or the video podcast. All right, they're both up there on iTunes. Leave a review. As you're doing the review, take a screenshot so we can tell that you are the person that's doing it. All right, and send it to us. And tell us that you've done it, and then you'll be in the draw. Woohoo! All right, now the question. Tony E from Newcastle. He goes, hi guys, love the show, blah, 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 love me Macs, blah, blah, blah. I have a late 2010 iMac that has become noticeably sluggish since upgrading to Mountain Lion. I considered selling my computer and upgrading to a Mac, but my needs don't presently require that, and I'd rather wait for the new product launches and upgrades coming late this year and in 2014. So I'm looking for some advice on RAM upgrades to my current machine, and are there any particular brands you folks recommend? Also, any pointers to useful how-to videos for my particular model, which would be much appreciated. Wow. Tony, where do we start? Let's see, Jace, let's see if you can start off and try and help Tony with What's going on with his Mac?
Well, number one tip, you can never have too much RAM. So unless you've got a MacBook Air, and that's talking about sealed things, not only can't you change the battery there, you can't change the RAM on that one, but this is iMac. And, well, probably the only thing you can upgrade in iMacs in recent times is the RAM, but Apple do normally make that quite easy. Look, in order to do that, first thing you need to do is identify what model of Mac you have exactly, because if you go to the websites, they're normally quite good in the ones that sell RAM in having little drop-down boxes to identify your model, and that way you get exactly the right RAM for your need. So we'll put the details up in the show notes, but essentially if you go under the Apple menu and click about this Mac, it will, and then click on more info, it will tell you what model you've got, and you can click again on system report, and that will give you a model identifier, which is normally what you're after. And that will say something like MacBook Air 3,1, or in this case, he had a iMac, I believe, so it might say 12,1 or something like that. Yes. That will be the key thing to making sure you get the right RAM.
2010 iMac.
If you listen to American podcasts and that, there's a good site in the States, macsales.com, or Other World Computing, as they're also known, that if you go onto that site, you can navigate your way through, again, selecting your model. It will tell you the right RAM, and they do have videos on there for how to do it. Right. But in Australia, I've had good success with a local site called ramcity.com.au. Again, you go there, select the model you have, what you're after, and the couple of times I've used it, I've ordered one day and received it the next day, which has been quite good. And I believe they also guarantee that, if you use their selector to pick the RAM, they guarantee that it's the right RAM and it will work, which is pretty good. In relation to videos, iFixit, I find is always good if you want to find out how to do anything. But with RAM, it's normally just a case of there's a little door on the bottom of your iMac. You're not going through any of those funky things like putting suction cups on the screen and pulling it out or anything fun like that. So it should be a pretty simple job that you can do yourself. Or where was he? In Newcastle? If you're going to Sydney for the day, you could drop into Penrith and get the guys
That's right.
to help you out if you weren't keen to do it yourself.
That's right. And if you live down Penrith Way, that's the easiest way to do it. Go in and get some personal service from Michael and the team, ithelpforyou.com.au. You'll see the address and everything up there on the webpage. So good on you, Tony. Thanks for that. If you've got a question, you can also send it in to us and we'll endeavour to answer it. We'll pick one a week and we'll endeavour to answer it. Look, my question there, just quickly, just to wrap all that up, is 2010 Mac. Is Macs, because I'm not a biggest Mac guru in the world, but are Macs restricted? Are they 32-bit, 64-bit? Are they restricted to a certain amount of RAM? Or are they all 64-bit these days? And so you just bung in whatever it'll take.
If you're on Mountain Lion, it'll be 64-bit. I guess your restriction comes into the physical number of slots you've got in, and that will most likely be 4 on that iMac. So
sweet.
But if you've got it fully populated, say you had 4 2 gig chips in there, you might need to be swapping some of those out and to put some 4s in, etc. So
right, yeah, that's right.
I guess that's not unusual. That's the same for any computer.
If you want to say,
also other things like run the disk utility and check and repair permissions on there that can often slow it down. And you can even go as far as to backing up all your data, wiping off and reinstalling Mountain Lion to get some speed back, because even like Windows, Macs can tend to get a bit gunked up with applications and drivers and things which get installed. If you wanted to go even a little bit further, you could even check out websites on how to, or visit the shop in Penrith and get a SSD put in there, maybe do some Fusion stuff and that sort of thing as well, which will help extend the life of your device a bit longer.
Yeah, so even though, because I've had my little Mac Mini here and I've noticed it getting slower and slower, and I reinstalled the operating system, but I didn't see it make too much difference. So reinstalling, as in like over the top of it, that's not as good as, same with Windows, it's not as good as a complete
As a clean install, that's way to go.
Yep. All right.
But more Rams better, Glenn. So.
Oh yes, always more RAM. Yeah, and just think of it like a swimming pool, and you've got really big arms. You need a bigger pool for you to swim in.
That's an interesting analogy. Hopefully, not one that someone's peed in with the purple dye.
No. Oh, I could say so. I'm not going to go there. All right, now let's go. Look, we're going to go to some tips or some picks of the week. How about a pick of the week? And look, I can see that Jason's put something in here. What have you got there? A Sennheiser MM50IP headset for iPhone. You got some of these, Jace?
So, well, at the moment you can see I'm wearing my white Apple headphones. But I normally, if I'm listening to music, I have a different pair of headphones in the ones you get with the standard with the iPod or iPhone. I mean, the newer ones Apple have got are okay, but they're obviously built to a price. So I had some Sennheiser earphones that I lost. So I went looking in the last week for some new ones, and got a later model of the Sennheiser ones I had. I guess the key thing is that they've got the controls on them to control the iPhone. So the volume button and play and answer call button that you get on the white Apple headset. So these I got from JB Hi-Fi. Just happened to be in there at lunchtime, and
what are we talking?
I've had good experience with Sennheiser. Yeah. I think they were retailing for just over 100, and because JB always wanted to do a deal, I think I got them for about 90 bucks.
Nice.
So some dude with a sleeve and more piercings than I've seen before sold it, which I don't think you can get a job in JB without having a few tats and piercings. I've never seen anyone
more piercings than in a male toilet. All right.
But look, they're good headphones, and look, I think the thing is you get some decent bass response that you don't get from the Apple one. So yeah, look, I've been quite pleased with them.
And Garth, you'd be in the headphones?
I am. For the money, for the $35 odd that you pay for the iPods. Hang on, what do you call them?
The
buds, Apple ones.
The iBuds,
earpods,
or something.
Earpods.
I don't think you can spend that little money and get as good a sounding earphones as those.
Yeah.
But so with the ones that you've got there, so the $90. So you're getting a really good sound.
Yes.
Yeah. See, I bought a pair of Sennheisers for about $45, so not much more than the Apple ones, and they sounded terrible. So
right.
Yeah, are they an in-ear type headphone, or are they more of a standard headphone?
No, these are in-ear, so they're the same style. So I use them when I'm running and stuff like that. So I tend to like that style to not fall out or anything like that. So look, yeah, I agree with you that you need to probably spend a little bit more to get the difference from the Apple earphones.
So, like, can I just ask you, just because as far as I can see, the little earbuds, whatever you call them, the earpods, they're great. I love them. The sort of the new sort of molded sort of ones, rather than the older ones where they're just normal flat sort of things. But yeah, I can't see. What's the difference? Do these Sennheiser, they just give a better bass or a clearer sound? Like, can you actually hear a better sound and so forth from them?
Look, I guess it's the same with with speakers. So look, to me, I can quite obviously, but I can quite distinctly hear the difference. It's a better bass. It's not so boomy or muddy, I guess. And the frequency response is a lot better. So, especially for female vocals, I find you can always hear the difference a lot more on that. There's just a lot more clarity and I guess
Okay.
staging than with Apple ones. But look, for podcasts and things like that, if you all you're doing is listening to your Aussie Mac Zone and Aussie Tech Heads, look, I think the Apple ones are quite fine. It's really good music that you pick up the difference.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, and those Apple ones, they do have bass, but it is muddy. Yeah. Look, I'll take a pick another way, and it's another kind of headphones, but sort of the other end, if you like, aftershocks. So these are bone conduction headphones that actually sound pretty good from all accounts. I'm still waiting to get a set.
What did you say? Bone conducting?
Yeah. So instead of going in your ears, these were initially designed for like fighter pilots and people in the military, where they wanted to be able to hear what was, coming through the comms, but have their ears uncovered.
Right.
Okay. So the little pads sort of sit just in front of your ears on your sort of on your cheekbones in there.
Yeah. Right.
Or sort of in front and below, and you can hear the audio quite clearly through that, but your ears are not getting blocked.
Yes.
So you'll hear what's going on, around you in the environment. So if you're one of these people who, go walking along the street and you've got your earpods in, or
well, that's one of the reasons why I didn't really like those pod things that actually stick right in your ear, and they actually
I don't like them either.
Yeah, and they just remove all sound possible from the outside world. I mean, like, you don't know what's going on around you, especially if you're walking outside.
They're good for cleaning your ears out, though. Yeah, you don't really want to share them with a friend.
They're great if what you're doing is lying back in a couch, listening to music. But if you're out in the world, like many of us are now with our iDevices or whatever it is, and you're listening to music and you're doing stuff at the same time, or particularly something like the aftershocks, it's more for listening to vocals than music. They're not going to be a great experience for music. But for listening to audiobooks or, podcasts, that sort of stuff, something like these aftershocks are absolutely fantastic because you can still hear clearly what's going on. It's not a bad sound for the situation, but you can also hear what's going on in the world around you.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Well, there's a couple of good. And so they're new, Garth, that you've ordered a pair? You want it getting a pair? Yeah.
So I know of them being distributed here in Australia through one of the, like the blindness organisations,
right?
Simply because they're perfect for blind people who are walking around,
and you get
with their iOS devices, but still need to hear what's going on around them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I do too. I can't handle walking, even just walking down the road or on a walk down to the, just the lap of the place, and I can't hear anything else except what's in there. I don't like it. I need to hear.
It feels weird, right? Yeah.
I need to hear cars. I need to know.
Speaking of that sort of thing, I'd be interested to get Garth's opinion. I always thought a good idea for Google Glass, because it uses the bone conduction as well to send audio to you, would be OCR for people who are blind. You could walk up to a sign and it could read the sign to you, and also GPS. It could direct you which way to walk if you can't see. And I've mentioned that to a few tech people, and I actually had a guy who said that he was blind and he would prefer to pull his iPhone out and use that to find things. And I was like, well, it sounds a bit crazy when you could have these glasses on all the time and they could be saying, okay, in 100 meters, turn left, and you know that you're going to need to turn left. And then you come up to a sign that could say, caution, manhole cover is missing. Yeah. And the glasses could read this to you using OCR for anybody who's blind. I think that'd be fantastic for that kind of thing.
Yeah, so do I. There's actually an Israeli company who's working on something like that at the moment. And I think there's, you can get a prototype for something like $3,000 or whatever.
Wow.
And they're doing what they call convenient OCR. So just OCR in the wild, if you like. So as you come across it, it's automatically getting read. And right now I can get a free app or a very cheap app that will do that OCR straight off the iPhone.
You would have to hold that out in front of you, whereas if you had
in front of you,
glass or something, it could just read it as you're walking along.
Couldn't be happening automatically. And the OCR apps that are currently available are a little very, very hit and miss.
Yeah.
So,
they'll get better over time.
All of that stuff is going to come along. All the stuff improves over time as does life, I guess.
That's right.
It's just normal. So
right.
I look, I'm this is an Apple show, but if Google Glass has all that stuff built in, I'll be, hello, Google, how's it going?
All right. Well, that's just brings us to the end of the show. We did have I had a tip, and Warlock there had a tip, but we're going to hold them off to next week, because otherwise we'll just run out of time. So, all right. So thanks everyone for downloading, and thanks for listening, and thanks for your support of the rebooted Aussie Mac Zone. We're up to episode 5, and we've got a lot more to bring you over the coming years. Hopefully. All right. So don't forget the $20 iTunes voucher. Just give us a review on the iTunes, either on the video Aussie Mac Zone or the audio Aussie Mac Zone, and you could win a $20 voucher, iTunes voucher, thanks to ithelpforyou.com.au, authorised Apple Service Centre. Okay, you can email us at any of us at any of our names at aussiemaczone.com.au, and you can follow us all on Twitter, and you'll see the Twitter. You'll see the Twitters will be, I'm at Aussie Tech Heads, Jason is at Jason Walmsley, Jason with a Y, Gus at iBlindTech, and Warlock is at Warlock, WAULOK. Nice and easy. And that's about the end of the show. Don't forget, the bandwidth is brought to you by aussietechheads.com.au/hosting. So if you're after a hosting, you're looking to change, maybe your hosting provider is a little bit slow, what are you doing? Get a move on. Come on over. Give me an email. Let's get it together. All right. So that's it. Show notes are at the aussietechheads.com.au/podcast webpage, and just grab the content however you want to. Probably the easiest way is just audio and video off iTunes. So thanks, boys. Thanks for coming in another Tuesday night. And thanks, Jace. We'll see you next week.
See you next week, guys.
See you, Warlock. See you next week.
See you next week.
And Garth, we'll catch you next week as well.
See you later, guys.
Cool. All right. So until then, it's bye from all of us. Ta-da.